Okay, in Tanya, we started last week Perek Gimel. If you have a Tanya, it's page Zion on the top. In most Tanyas, it's page 10 at the bottom. Okay? So after the Alter Rebbe finished Perek Beis about the creation, about the emanation of the neshama in the body, how it goes through the different levels and so on and forth, and the garment that's dependent on the parent. So then the Alter Rebbe says, we've learned a few lines. We're going to read it quickly and get back to where we're up to. So we're going to start Perek Gimel inside. This we learned great length last week. The three levels of the neshama, ruach, nefesh, ruach, and neshama, klula me'aseh bechinas. Each one of them is composed of 10 levels. Keneged eseh sfiras elyonos, corresponding with the 10 10 attributes of Hashem, shenishtalshelu mehem, that the neshama comes from. We learned in Perek Beis the neshama comes from Atzilus. If the neshama comes from Atzilus, Atzilus has 10 levels, so therefore the neshama has 10 levels in it because it comes from Atzilus that has 10 levels. So the neshama has 10 levels. And echlekes l'shtayim, which is divided into two, sholish imeis, the sheva kfules, the three mothers and the 7 doubled ones. And this is where we're up to. Pirush, what does this mean? Chachma, Bina, and Das. Chachma, Bina, and Das, which in English is translated wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. But we'll see. It's not the normal definition of what we call wisdom and knowledge. The Shivas Yimei Binyan and the 7 days of creation, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, and so on. Meaning like this. The 10 levels have a little bit of explanation over there. It was called Chassidus 101. The 10 attributes of Hashem that the neshama comes from, and therefore the neshama also has 10 levels. These 10 levels are divided into two. 3 intellectual levels and the 7 emotional levels. The Alter Rebbe calls the 3 intellectual levels the 3 mothers, and the 7 ones, the midas, are called the offspring, the children, and they're called Shivas Yemei HaBinyan, the 7 days of creation. Now, in a minute, Alter Rebbe is going to explain what Chachma, Bina, and Das means, and he's going to elaborate on it. But why are the 7 emotional attributes called Shivas Yemei HaBinyan, the 7 days of creation? So Chassidus explains, why did Hashem create the world in 7 days? Why didn't he do it in 3 days, 4 days, 5? He could have done whatever he wanted. Because on each day of creation, Hashem created the world with the attribute that was apropos for that day. Meaning, the first day of creation, Hashem created the world with chesed. Second day, gvura, tiferes, netzach, hod, yesod, malchus. The first day, Hashem created the world with the attribute of chesed. That means Hashem revealed his attribute of kindness. Therefore, what was created on the first day? Light. Light is kindness, revelation, giving. That's why Chesed was created the first day. And therefore, in the Seres Dibris, and we say it in Kiddush, Ki Sheishes Yomim, in Shabbos morning. Sheishes Yomim Asa Hashem. What the pasuk is trying to say is, in 6 days God created. But then it would say, Bisheishes Yomim. The Torah doesn't say Bisheishes Yomim, in 6 days. It says Sheishes Yomim. What does it mean? So Chassidus explains, the 6 days, meaning the 6 attributes of Hashem, created the world. Shabbos, rest, Malchus, sovereignty, that's a different story. The world was created with the 6 spheres. Therefore, sphere number 1 is Chesed, God created light. Second number sphera is Gvura, which represents severity, strictness. What did Hashem create on the second day? Gvura, he created the heaven. What did the heaven do? Split, separated the higher waters, the lower waters. The third day was the attribute of Tiferes. So Hashem created the creations of Tiferes. The next day is Netzach, fourth day. What did Hashem create? The sun and the moon, the powerful luminaries. Netzach, the victory, power. So at the 6 days of creation actually correspond with the 6. I'm not going into each day because it's going to take too much time. But the Eibishter created the first day Chesed, so light was created. Second day Gvura, so therefore the heavens split, and so on. Until you come to Shabbos, which is the attribute of Malchus. Shabbos Malchusah, Yismechu b'Malchuscha. Shabbos is sovereignty. It's interesting, and I'm not going to elaborate too much on this. The Ramban, in his commentary at the beginning of Chumash, extrapolates this. The Ramban was a Makubal, by the way. The Ramban learns, not the Rambam, there's also Makubal, but this is Nachmanides, the Ramban. The Ramban explains that the 7,000 years of creation correspond with the 7 Midas of Hashem, because in Tillim we say in Shabbos Davening, Ki elef shanim be'einecha, by God 1,000 years is like Ki yom esma, like 1 day. So if on the first day of creation, God created the world with chesed, and therefore light was created, extrapolate that, the first 1,000 years of creation was with chesed. Second 1,000 years of creation, gvura. Third 1,000 years, tiferes, all the way down to malchus. And just to say a few of them, the first 1,000 years of creation, people live very long. Adam lived 930, this one lived 950. They live very long. Why? Because the attribute of chesed was revealed. What happened in the second 1,000-year era? Hashem brought the flood, destroyed the world. What happened in the third 1,000th year era? In the year 2448, which is in the third 1,000-year era, Hashem gave the Torah. Hashem gave the Torah to the Jewish people. The next 1,000-year era, like we said, the sun and the moon, Hashem created the first Beis HaMikdash and the second Beis HaMikdash, the sun and the moon. So the Ramban extrapolates, and just like Shabbos then was rest, when Mashiach comes, it's the ultimate level of rest. So I'm just saying that therefore they're called Shivas Yemei HaBinyan, the 7 Midas that Hashem created the world with. The kids in the Bar Mitzvah Maimer that they say, Chabad boy, when he becomes Bar Mitzvah, says a Maimer. So over there he explains that's why Torah is greater than the world, because the world was created with the emotions, the Midas of Hashem. But Torah is the level of Chochmah and Bina of Hashem. So therefore Torah is greater than world. Torah can control world. Torah is greater than world, because world was created with Midas. Olam Chesed Yibana. The world was created with Midas. But Torah is even greater than the world. Okay, so now let's see what the Alter Rebbe says. So just like there's Chachma, Bina, and that's the 3 intellectual levels, and Shivas Yemei HaBinyan, the 7 days of creation, which are Chesed. Okay, it says Kach B'Nefesh Ha'Adam. Therefore, the person's soul that comes from these 10 levels also has 10 levels within him, but Shenechlekes Lishtayim, the nefesh, the 10 keiches hanefesh, the 10 powers of the soul, is also divided into 2, seichel and midas. Right? We have intellect and we have midas. We have emotions, feelings. Haseichel kreilo chochma bina v'das. Intellect is called chochma bina and das, Chabad, Va'amides ein havas Hashem. What is the midah? The midas. See, let's mention a few of them. Avas Hashem, the love of Hashem, which is chesed, ava. Upachte v'yirasei, and the fear of Hashem and the awe of Hashem. Okay? Ulefare, and to beautify him. Okay? Now, the Rebbe explains what's the difference in Hebrew. Now, the Rebbe says two things, pachad and yira. Both, if you translate, even in the English, say dread and awe. What's the difference between pachad and yira? Okay, now the Rebbe says, Ava is love. Okay, that's chesed. What is this definition of pachad and yira? What's the difference between them? There's Gemara is about this, by the way, in halacha, many different halachas involved in this. Yira is an intellectual fear and awe. And pachad is the sudden fright. You ever walk on all of a sudden, something comes charging you out of, something comes, that's not yira. That's pachad, fright. Yira is when I meditate how powerful you are and how you could hurt me or, whatever it is. So then I fear you. Or in a positive way, when I think how awesome God is going through the creations, it creates within me an awe of Hashem. That's an intellectual awe of Hashem, not a fearful. But here the midah, the Rebbe says, the midah of gvura in the nefesh is yira and pachad. It could be an intellectual fear. It's still a midah of fear. It could be intellectual fear, or it could be just a midah of fright, which is a fear without any intellect. And then he says like this: the Chabad nikro imais, the intellect, the three levels of Chochmah, Bin, and Das, are called mothers, umaka lemidas, and the source of the midah, of the emotions. Why? Ki amidas hein told us Chabad. The midas are the offshoot or the offspring of Chabad. And now the Alter Rebbe is going to elaborate exactly what this means. What the Alter Rebbe is saying is like this. Intellect stimulates feelings. Parents give birth to children. Intellect gives birth to feelings. How do you create a love of Hashem? Through intellectual meditation. How do you create a fear of Hashem? Not that Hashem's going to thunder from heaven and strike you. That's maybe pachad, that's foolish. But intellectual greatness in meditation, the greatness creates fear within you, awe within you. So intellect actually gives birth to feelings. And therefore, like we know, the person's feelings are based on their intellect. A mature person has different desires than a little child does. A little child wants a little car. A teenager wants a big car. And if you get older, you want a more expensive car. But the midas, intellect, feelings are based on the seichel. Based on your intellect, that's how you get the midas. And that's why Chabad, Chochmah, Bin, and Das is called the intellect, the mothers, and the midas are called the children.
Funny word, imas. It's usually imahis.
No, that's when you talk about people, I think. Anyway, so he says like this. So, be it Inyan, the explanation of this is as follows. And now the Alter Rebbe is going to explain what Chochmah is, and what Bina is, and what Das is. Das is a different category of B'chla. I'm going to explain it outside first, and then we'll see it again inside. Let me explain this outside. Sometimes you're learning something, or you're walking in the street, and all of a sudden, you get a brainstorm. A flash comes into your head. an idea comes into your head. That idea has no depth, has no length, has no width. It's like a spark, like the letter Yud. Like the letter Yud. When you take this idea and you start, as he's going to say, lengthening it and broadening it, that's what's called Bina understanding. Chachma is the initial brainstorm. There is no understanding yet. You don't know yet what it is. And then when you take that chachma, that idea, that flash, and elaborate on it with length and width, which will explain soon what that means, that is the level of Bina. Now, father and mother in childbearing, and the way it's by a father and mother is because that's the way it is by Hashem. The father gives the seed, the tipa. It's a spark. It's one, as it says in picture, putrid drop. It's a drop. What happens in the mother? The mother takes the seed and broadens it for 9 months of pregnancy until an entire baby is born. The chachma aspect is like the seed of the father, which is a drop. The mother takes that seed and broadens it. And then you give birth to a baby. So chachma is called father, even though that Rebbe said the three are called imais. He means generally speaking they're called mothers. But in more detail, chachma is the father, because chachma is a brainstorm, a flash, an idea. You don't know what it is yet. And then you take that idea and you broaden it in length and width. And let me just explain what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here. What the Rebbe explains, what the Alter Rebbe means is like this. Length of an intellect means how you bring it down. You know, sometimes like you have to give a mashal, an analogy for something. That means I don't get it, the thing by itself. I need a mashal. I need to bring it down. Sometimes I need another mashal to understand it, or another mashal. The pasuk says Shlomo Melech spoke 3,000 mishalim for every concept. Shloisha Tzalav mashal. Shlomo Melech spoke 3,000 mishalim for everything. So mashal is when I bring it down, then I should bring able to my head to understand it. That's called length. When I broaden it and apply it in different ways, that is called broadening it. But that's all Bina. Chachma is the initial spark of the idea that has no length and width to it yet. There's nothing there. It's a flight. It's a flash of lightning, so to speak. That's all it is.
Repeat what the width is.
The width is
Broaden.
showing the way this thing has a connection to this other thing, and you compare this thing to that thing, and you bring it into depth and to bring in other things also. You can, the halacha in kashrus that can have an impact on choshen mishpat, punitive damages. I mean, there are things that you take the understanding from one thing to the next. Like it says, what is bina? Mevin davar, mitoich davar. Bina is you understand one thing from the next. That is bina. And what's very interesting over here is the father is chachma, the mother is bina, and then you give birth to son and daughter. Okay? So in the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem's name, we have all 10 spheres. Yud is chachma, Hey is bina, Vav is 6, is the 6 spheres, and the last Hey is Malchus. Okay? Now, I'm going to go off for a minute, but it's important in this whole understanding. In Hebrew, so therefore the father who gives the seed, the drop, he is called Chochmah. The mother who broadens it is called Bina. Why do girls become Bas Mitzvah a year before the boys become Bar Mitzvah? Why does a girl become Bas Mitzvah at 12 rather than 13? So it says, we learn now from whatever, that a boy becomes Bar Mitzvah at 13. And the Gemara says, Bina Yeseda Nitna Be'isha Yosin Be'ish. A woman has more Bina than a man does. So therefore, if she has more Bina and a boy becomes Bar Mitzvah 13, she becomes Bas Mitzvah 12. That's how we learn it out. Why does a woman have more Bina than the man? Because a woman's level is Bina. The man's level is Chachma, and therefore that's a Yud. What's a Yud? A drop. The hay has a width and a length. That's the level of the woman. What's the purpose of marriage? To have children, at least a son and a daughter. That's the Vav and the hay. What is a Vav? An extended Yud. Take a Yud and draw the line further down. That's a Vav. So what's the Vav? The Vav is an extension of the Yud. That's the son. Hay is the extension of the mother to Hays. And therefore the mother is Hay and the daughter is Hay. So in the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, you have father, mother, son, daughter. Which is the ultimate purpose of a family, is to have a son and daughter at least. So therefore, like this, in Hebrew, it's remarkable this. Hebrew, masculine, ends in a Yud. Feminine, ends in a Hey. Or even masculine, ends with a Vav. And female ends with a Hey. Feminine ends with a Hey. Why? Because Ish is Aleph Yud Shin, and Isha is Aleph Shin Hey. The man is Yud, which is Chachma. The woman is Hey, which is Bina. And therefore, the whole setup of the human family, of the person themselves, they have intellect, giving birth to Midas. The intellect is Chachma and Bina, and Dr. Rebbe is explaining it. Yud is the level of the father, Chachma, the initial flash, the spark that you don't know yet what it is. Hey broadens it, and now when you have understanding, then you can meditate and give birth to feelings. Masculine feelings and feminine feelings. What is the difference in Chassidus, masculine and feminine? Giver, receiver. The father gives the sperm, the mother receives it. The male is the giver, the female is the receiver. So that's the whole concept of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Why is Yud Kei Vav Kei like that? Because the 10 Sfiras, which correspond with the 4 letters of Hashem's name, is Yud, which represents Chachma because it's the flash, the brainstorm, the initial idea. Hey already has the broadening of it. So he says like this, coming back to the top line of page 14 on the top. So he says, the seichel of the nefesh that understands everything is called Chachma. What is Chachma? Chachma is 2 words. Koach Ma. What does Koach Ma mean? A power of nothingness. Ma is like Moshe ben V'nachnu ma, we are nothing. What is Chachma? Chachma is, it's just switching around the Ches and the Chaf. You have the word Koach. Koach Ma means it's a power of nothingness. There's no body yet to Bina. It's nothing. It's bittul, by the way. Chachma is bittul. Because what is Chachma? There's no width, there's no depth, there's no length. It's a dot. A dot is nothing. That's bittul. So therefore, that's Chachma. And he says, when you bring out this potential power of Chachma, Shem is beinin b'sichle, when you start meditating with your intellect. Lavin davar la'ashuri, to understand it properly. Ula omke, and its depth. Mitech eze dvar chochma muskel b'sichle, they are called bina. Then it's called bina. So again, chochma is the initial flash, the brainstorm, the yud, the seed. That is a level of chochma. When that becomes broadened, you take that one drop and you spread it out like the mother spreads out the seed to form the entire baby from head to toe. That's called bina. The mother is bina. And then what happens when there's the unity of chochma and bina? Then you give birth to children. What are the children in the spiritual sense? The feelings. Love of Hashem, fear of Hashem, glorification of Hashem, power, all the seven spheres of Hashem. That is all what it refers to. And he says, when you understand it, it's called Bina. Ve'hein heim ava'im. They are the father and mother. Hamelidis avas Hashem. They give birth to love of Hashem. V'yirasei, and to the fear of Hashem. Upachte, and the awe of Hashem. The fright of Hashem. And this explains, by the way, a very fundamental question that the Mezritcher Maggid asks. There is a mitzvah in the Torah, you have to love God with all your heart. There's a mitzvah in the Torah, you have to love your neighbor. You have to love everybody. So the Maggid asks a very simple question. I can command you to do something. I can command you not to do something. But how can I command you to feel? I can't. As a classic example in yesteryear, I can tell you eat broccoli. You hate it, you despise it, but you could eat it anyway. But I cannot command you love broccoli. What do you do if you don't? Do you turn on an on button? I don't like it. How can Hashem command me to love Hashem? I don't like him. He was bad to me. He killed my family in the Holocaust. I don't want him. I don't like him. How can Hashem command us to love him? Hashem says you have to love every single Jew. I don't like him. What do you want me to do? To lie? I could say, yeah, I love him. But I don't. How can there be a real mitzvah to love Hashem? And the Maggid answers with what we're learning here. The mitzvah is not v'yohavta Hashem Elokecha. The mitzvah is, what's the pasuk right before that? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. What is the mitzvah? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. To meditate into the greatness of God, that the seven heavens and earth, which is the number of Ches, and the four corners of the world are so all subservient and bottled to the Aleph, to the one Hashem. That's intellectual stimulation. That I can command you to meditate. I can tell you, think into the greatness of Hashem. That I can command you to do. And then the Maggid said, v'yohavta doesn't mean you should love God. In Hebrew, the Maggid said, v'yohavta also means you will love Hashem. What he's saying is, when you meditate, because Hashem set us up in a way that intellect stimulates feelings of love and fear and all the other midas. Because intellect stimulates the feelings, Hashem created us with the ability that you can meditate, and then you will automatically give birth to midas. And that Hashem said that I can command you to do. V'yohavta doesn't mean you should love God. It means when I'm commanding you to meditate, then v'yohavta, you will love God. When it comes to the mitzvah, how can I come love another Jew? Because if you meditate that you and me and him and her are all the same big body, we're all the one body of everybody, then you know what happens? Then I realize you are me are the same thing. So of course I love you. So what is the Alter Rebbe is explaining this fundamental? That's why it's called Chabad Chassidus. The reason why Chabad Chassidus is the ultimate goal is to come to love Hashem and fear Hashem. Love is the source, and we'll learn later. of all positive mitzvahs. Why do I want to do a positive mitzvah? I want to connect to Hashem because I love Him. I don't want to rebel against Hashem. That's fear. So fear is the source of all negative mitzvahs. Where can I get this from? Through the intellect. The ultimate goal is to come to love and fear Hashem. But when it comes from intellect, now I've never called it before the long, short way because it's permanent. Then you get it properly. Okay, that will leave here for today. By the way, next Wednesday night is Tisha B'Av. The Mitzvah Shem, Mashiach will come. We'll have a shir on Zoom in the Beis HaMikdash. But if Chas v'Shalom he doesn't come, I'm going to fast. There's no shir Wednesday night. Have a great week and a meaningful 9 days. And we'll see you Monday night in Mitzvah Shem.
Thank you.
May Hashem bless you, dew of earth.
Thank you,
Shabbos.
Rob.
Thank you,
Shabbos, Rabbi.
everybody. Thank you.
Shabbos. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.